So in the 3 minutes or less version, I started...
Or take your time if you want.
Okay, I'll slow it down. In the 4 minutes or more version, I had a few NDEs when I was younger, and I started my career in the US military, and I got into technology around the same time. So by the time I was 25, I was teaching at the university level in technology. I've been teaching ever since. I worked my way through military police into a field called information operations, and information operations is where the really interesting stuff happens. So it's not military intelligence, it's information operations. That's where the electronic warfare, counterterrorism, PSYOP, civil affairs, where these types of subjects happen. And I had gone through the normal ranks, and when everything's compartmentalized, there's only so much that you actually learn. But it tells you how the game is played and what the pieces on the board are and how things work. And then I had got out because I was focusing more on my entrepreneurial endeavors, and I got back in as a contractor after I was contacted by my colonel, and I got into the deeper subject matters where they were doing research and development into all these technologies, and that's where my paradigm was exploded. And it was a period of about 2 years where I had been awoken to the reality of how the system actually worked. Previously, I thought I joined G.I. Joe, but progressively I found out I joined Cobra. So from that point on, I realized that humanity was in very, very deep trouble, and that the way technology was progressing and the curtain of secrecy was so pervasive that humanity almost didn't have a chance. Without God or divine intervention, people have no idea the level of intellect they're up against. And these are not, we see politicians as dumb. Everything that happens according to a script. Politicians may be stupid, but they're following orders of people who are extremely intelligent. No detail is left uninvestigated or unaccounted for or unplanned for. So where this was going, and where I was not going to participate in taking it, was a digital control grid and the complete subjugation of the human race and the planet, as it turns out, with the entire tokenization of everything on the planet to be controlled and manipulated by the power elite. So that was not okay with me, obviously, as I don't think it should be with any human being. So I quit and I went back to teaching, and I started to just try to teach people the things that I had learned about and introduce the concepts of what artificial intelligence really was and what a world run by AI and backed up and enforced by robots really was. And even back then, nanotech was pervasive. There was already nanotech detectors behind the curtains, and we're talking 2005 and on. They had detectors for not just GMO, but for nanotechnology. So people are only hearing about it post-COVID, but this behind the curtains has been going on for decades, and some would say that I've been in contact with for many decades. My experience with it was not that long, but it was enough to stimulate me into action and to want to help people defend themselves against this onslaught. So I started to speak subtly and work with people who were speaking. So I provided them information because they were willing to go up front. Sean Morton, who recently passed, or a couple years ago. And then around 2020, after COVID, I started to speak more openly because I was already speaking on Sean's show and doing lectures and teaching students about the reality of technology. But after COVID, it was obvious that humanity needed a serious wake-up call, otherwise we were all going to this digital enslavement. So I started to speak on a number of platforms, and I started to do breakout lectures, which can all be found at ryanvelli.com. All my lectures are all there, all my talks, all my interviews. So if you want the details, the technical details, the IEEE documents, the government documents, the Davos documents, all of it I've talked about, I've provided. And from there, I really did my best to wake people up and to get people to understand what I was talking about is real. And I think it's largely fallen on deaf ears. The rare person can grasp the severity of what we're revealing. And so many of my colleagues and peers who have been exposing this information have been murdered. So including Robert Duncan, Cyrus Parsa, and the list goes on and on and on, not to mention the people who have disappeared. because this is all moving into high gear. And as I think people have seen this year in 2025, they've seen artificial intelligence break all the metrics for measuring its learning capacity. And so many of the people who are working directly on it, who years ago said, oh, it's not a problem, it's under our control, freaked out and bugged out and quit the companies and the big paying jobs they're working for, and they went to the ground. They're in bunkers. So the people who are working with this directly now realize what they've done. They've let the genie out of the bottle, and there's no going back. So this idea that we haven't hit AGI yet, we have hit and surpassed AGI.
And what's AGI?
Artificial general intelligence, where artificial intelligence surpasses human intellect, which it already has. And it's important for people to understand that there's behind the curtain and in front of the curtain. So this is what I'm talking about. In front of the curtain, AGI has happened. It's got a huge IQ. Most people are not half of the IQ of what AI is capable of, just even, years ago. Where we're going is we're going to artificial superintelligence. And what is required for artificial superintelligence, which is their AI God, that they've already opened the Church of AI God in California, this is where artificial intelligence knows all and can affect all. And the way it does that is heavily dependent on nanotechnology, because now there's the wireless body area network that is infecting us with nanotechnology in our bodies. That's a computer system that, as Dr. Anna brought up, is literally building construction zones and self-assembling technology inside the body to connect you to this artificial intelligence. That's the part that she didn't clearly connect. It's connected to AI. It's building the apparatus at the body level to connect you to artificial intelligence God, artificial superintelligence. Now, for it to do that, it needs to have AI in everything, not just us, in the birds, and the squirrels, and the rats, and everything.
The plants.
And the plants. And it has to be able to affect everything. This is why they're coating everything with chemtrails and all of this graphene. So now with this self-assembling technology, it uses what's called EH, energy harvesting, that can use piezoelectric, pyroelectric, flow, light, photovoltaic. It takes all of those things and generates energy. So you can have nanotechnology on the table that self-assembles by virtue of being exposed to wind, and it can form a technology that's listening to us right now. I mean, people can't grasp the power of that. So when you snap in an intelligence behind all of that technology, you get what was talked about in ancient texts as the beast system. And there's no other way to describe it. It's the devil, it's the beast. And they're building it and paying our own people to build a system of our internal enslavement. Now, where people get lost is when I start talking about extra-dimensional intelligences that are running this. But behind the curtains, extra-dimensional technology and communication, plasma technology, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, these things are all in a bundle of topics that are highly classified yet highly real. So, I mean, I think your audience must know that they don't do ritual sacrifice and all of these horrible things for no reason. There is extra-dimensional intelligences that are feeding and gathering something from these behaviors that these monsters do. And they're getting something for it. They're getting a playbook and they're getting knowledge in order to construct this system that they believe will lead them to eternal life, where the eternal pedophile billionaires will never die, and they will escape karma and judgment that comes for us all. So this is where they've committed so many grievous sins and atrocities against humanity and their own souls, that they're doing everything they can to live forever. And they think that if they can appease this AI God will keep them from dying and facing punishment for what they've done.
Wow, yes. I've mentioned many times that this is above a human level intelligence that is doing all of this.
It absolutely is.
So how do you, for someone, and there's way more to this, so like stay tuned, he's got a lot of information. How do you kind of explain this to a person who's like, well, I'm fine right now. There's 5G all over the place, and they're probably not aware, like hardly anyone's aware that the nanotech's already in them. but it seems fine right now. So how do you kind of explain that to a person like that of what's so dangerous about what's happening and where it's going?
Well, that's a question I've tried to answer for 15 years. And it's how do you crack the brainwashing and the mind control that people are under to understand the severity and the importance of what we're exposing. And I don't think the answer to that is simple. I think a lot of people choose not to know because they can't function if they did know. And you and I both know that the weight that we hold is heavy. And if you don't have a spiritual practice to take some of that weight off you, and you can't put it on a divine, benevolent consciousness to say, look, I'll do my part, but God, you got to do yours. They don't have that spiritual faith that allows them to accept reality as it is. So they turtle and they stick their head up their ass, and they would rather see a bunch of bullshit than see reality. So what is the magic formula to undo that? Well, it's to tell them that you don't have a future. Your children don't have a future. Humanity doesn't have a future unless we stop them. So
what would you say
get it yet?
Yeah. So what would you say to them, like what's going to happen? Like I said, like for right now, most people are like, I'm fine right now. Everything's fine right now. Where is this headed?
And they still talk about their 401k. But the Genius Act, in case you didn't know, on page 30, has said that they can freeze your bank account for any infraction. Anytime they choose, the government can freeze your finances. So if you think you're just going to live till you're retiring and everything's going to be okay, that's complete delusion. What's going to happen is a slow boil and shock events. So the way that they manage change, because there is a whole thought process and a science behind change management. And folks, you're a victim of it. They generate a shock event, often a false flag, a tear-jerking event that leads the sheep into the direction that they want to herd us. Then they have the pre-planned solution where they roll out more technological fascism and tyranny, and we just willingly go into it. That's why they say, you know, if you control food, you control the people. If you control oil, you control the nations. If you control money, you control it all, right? So this is what they're using to position us at a point of their choosing to close the prison doors, at which point we won't be able to get out. And I listen to a lot of people who talk without knowledge, who say things like, we're going to be able to hack it. There's nothing that's airtight. What's coming is airtight. What's coming self-learns. So even if you could, as some people say, put icing sugar in a robot to disable it, that information will upload to the AI mind cloud a la Hanson Robotics, and it will improve in a deep learning state, a reinforced learning state, and it will come out with a solution, and the next version will be impenetrable to that attack. So every little thing, you might be able to take out one robot by throwing some gravel in its eye or something, just as an example. But it will self-improve ad infinitum. It never sleeps. They have nuclear batteries which they can stack. So it doesn't need sleep, it doesn't need rest, and it doesn't miss. Artificial intelligence is not like the movies where you see robots shooting and they're missing it. No, it doesn't miss. It can line up dozens of targets and hit them in sequence, and all those targets are moving without a single error. It's not like the movies. So if we allow that to happen with all of their airtight security, and let me just add something here, that DARPA is working on artificial intelligence that will scan itself to create an impenetrable system. So there's a word for it, I forget what it is, I don't know that it's finalized anyway, but you can get on the DARPA mailing list and listen to all the things that they're producing. And it's a risk analysis of a system to give it an impenetrable stamp of security. So we do what are called pen tests, right? Penetration testing on systems to see if we can get in and mess with it and get in. Well, when AI is doing that, it's not going to miss anything. It's not going to leave anything to chance that we can just hack. So this is where people need to understand that the first version of the internet was Wild West. There were things you can hack. There was stuff you can get around. But once you get nanotechnology in your body, synthetic biology, all of your biometrics monitored, recorded, and measured, everything tracked. There's no hacking this system. There's no way around it. There's no escaping it. There's only stopping it. And if we don't stop it, no matter where you are, you hide in the woods, they'll send drone swarms, which they're already working on. Not just drone swarms, but machines that create drones that swarm. So this is robots making drone swarms and are deployed with your biometric signature and can be deployed from miles away with nuclear batteries that will fly for God knows how far to target you.
So do you foresee it as like this system is going to like just try to kill everyone, or is it going to more enslave?
It's
turn them transhuman?
It's enslave, and I think the reason for that is that artificial superintelligence wants to use what it can from our biology. We do, and one thing they say that's true is like AI doesn't have an endocrine system, but AI can hack ours. AI may not be able to do some of the spiritual things that we can do, but it can hack ours. So this is where they bring in transhumanism and the biodigital convergence, where why kill the human when you can just Borgify it? So they're Borgifying us. Some won't make it. If you have some mental capacity not to be programmed or to resist it, you'll be eliminated. And those that survive will be completely absent of free will, absent of their soul's control over what's happening in their body or their life. And this is where biblically they'll say people will want to die, but they will not be able to. The AI won't let you die unless it wants you to. And my take on this is that the reason the extra dimensionals are creating this system is to create an eternal meta realm, an eighth sphere of suffering, to harvest our negative emotions to feed demons. Now, people hear that and they just can't grasp it. Well, test me on it. Bring it to your own lab. Learn what's going on extra dimensionally. Figure out what demonic influence is and how it feeds and why our elites communicate and make deals with demonic intelligences in other dimensions. Why do they do that? Why do you think they do that? What do the demons get out of it? They're feeding because they're non-physical. But what they feed off of, because they are disconnected from the divine source, they're feeding off of our emotional energy, our negative frequency emotions. So this is where you create the meta realm, which is an area around the planet that is superimposed. It's the inversion of, again, this term is misunderstood, but purgatory. It's more like a way station for souls around the planet. And they're creating the inverted form of this, which is the metaverse, where you will have a digital twin, which is a simmed out version of you with all of your real-time streaming biometrics from your W-band, your 802.15.6 wireless body area network.
Which we have right now.
Which we have right now. And it's communicating.
So we're in the metaverse right now, probably.
We already have Sims. So this is another thing that was well developed in 2007 and 8. There's already world simulators, and they simulate all of us. They gathered all of our data. They used fractal algorithms to determine who's brainwashable, who's awake, who's not. And they put threat rating on us that they switched terminology and said is a social credit score. They just turned the threat rating upside down. And if you have a low social credit score, it means you have a high threat rating. And they just relabeled it from a threat rating to a social credit score. And yeah, we'll be eliminated based on that.
Welcome to Depression Week on the Dr. Johnny Channel. So, what can anyone do at this point?
Get involved. Take responsibility for this world and this planet. We're here as guardians and caretakers for this planet. You looked at TV screens and you obsessed with satiating your own low frequency desires, and you failed at your mission. And this whole planet's going to be scrubbed unless we stop them. The whole planet is going to be scrubbed unless we stop them. Because I don't think the universe will tolerate this. I don't think God and Source will tolerate this. The total enslavement of all life on this planet, are we going to accept that? Are we going to accept the tokenization of every living thing on this planet? Are we going to fail the animals? Are we going to fail the planet? Are we going to fail our ancestors? Are we going to fail our offspring? Are we going to fail our souls in God? Decide. Because so far, humanity as a whole has decided to fail. So I hope, if anything, I inspire some of you to choose to get involved and to succeed. And especially those of you that are working for the system. I did too. When I realized what it was, I fought against it. It's time for you in the system to fight against it before it brings about hell on earth. So no time like the present, and no more important time ever in human civilization than right now. Like, right now.
What can your average person do, though? Like a soccer mom in Ohio right now, she's watching this, like, what can she really do?
First of all, can you propagate a message? Can you copy a video? Can you share information? Can you communicate with your family and friends? Can you express to them the urgency of what humanity is facing? Can you express to them that their kids and their ancestry will not exist? That everything is going to be enslaved, including nature and the animals? Yeah, do something. Do anything. But what is a decision that you make between your connection to source and you? Connect to the divine, download your mission, and act. But if you do nothing, we all fail. So we all have a part to play. And I don't tell you what to do. You ask God what to do. You listen carefully when you receive that communication from the divine, and you carry it out fearlessly, courageously, and relentlessly, and will win. That's it.
Yeah, no, I generally agree. So we all have NanoTech in us right now, which I just discovered, really. Like, I did not know that. You've known this for a while. Anna Mahalch has known this. I thought it was just the people who inject themselves with the lethal injection, but it's in the chemtrails. Maybe you can explain a bit more about that, how we've all got it now, and what we can do about it.
So the interesting thing is that it's a series of mechanisms. It's got, hydrogel, which is like the scaffolding. It's got the graphene, it's like the building materials. It's got the nanolipid carrier particles, which are like the delivery mechanisms, the packets. It's got synthetic biology parasites of some kind that I don't know what they're doing in there, but they're doing something. And that's not in the literature. But the nanotech and the self-assembling operating systems are in the literature, and they do talk about that. And the nano-coaxial cables, yeah, that's in the literature. So when you look at all this clotting, this is tech. So this is pretty incredible stuff. So when we see that in our blood, real time, it's not a question anymore. Just go get your blood checked through live blood analysis with, I know it's not live with Dr. Anna unless you're on site, but you have to mail it in, and you can see that the tech is in there. So once you see that, you need to understand that your governments were participant in massive war crimes. Massive, massive, massive war crimes. Governments that try to murder their own people and do experiments, medical technology and nanotech, are not legitimate. They're the enemy of living beings. So the first thing we need to do is try to get the nanotech out. So why don't you start with step one? Step one is trying to clean up your diet, clean up what you're thinking, clean up what you're consuming, clean up your electrosmog environment, clean up your life. Oh, it's a series of things you have to do to fix yourself, to troubleshoot and heal, right? So that's where I see the solutions right now. There's always, new things that could change the game and alter the equation, so I'm always looking for those. But I do agree that humanity needs solutions, and that's what I'm working on. And I did hear people's criticism saying, okay, you pointed it all out, but let's fix it. Well, I've been working on fixing it since I found out it was real.
Yeah, it's interesting times. I think your average person can't even get their head around any of this stuff. It's so mind-blowing, the level of technology and the level of sophistication and the evilness behind it all. Here's a question for you. So It looks like if they haven't already, and that's a question as well, if they're going to turn most people into actual robots controlled by AI, but we're not, how's that going to look for us? Like every dystopian zombie movie you've ever seen doesn't even compare to what might be coming.
I think to some degree it's already happening.
I think so too.
And you see there is a bifurcation of the human race.
Yeah.
And there are those of us that are coming together in goodwill, in love, to try and do something for humanity. And there are those that are just self-oriented and controlled by their lower desires. And it seems clear to me. And we come across them, we all do. Those of us that are awake, you know who's like fighting the good fight and who is going along with the beast system. And I don't think that's going to change. It'll intensify, you know. It's already happening. The Civil War has already started.
Do you think it's going to get to a point where like most of these people are literally going to be under control like robots? And if we're not, like, do you have any idea what that might look like? Will we be living somewhere like in the mountains or something?
So here's an interesting thing. When I was in and I realized that they were trying to identify with fractal algorithms certain groups of people, I didn't know the details. I just knew that there were certain people that had a different fractal algorithm profile and they couldn't be brainwashed. I came across something called the Ma'at gene, M-A'-A-T. That's the nickname for it. It's got a number. But people who seem to have the Ma'at gene active are not brainwashable. And when we get together in groups, we are more effective at turning on the Ma'at gene in people who don't have it active. It takes time, but in groups, the more of us together, like if we had 15 people who had the Ma'at gene open, and we took a few normies and threw them in there, within 3 days, they would start to spark. Even if they didn't want to, or they would run away screaming, ah! Or they would spark. And their Ma'at gene would start to open, and their fractal algorithm would start to change based on their behavior and thought process patterns. Because it's reflected in, of course, the digital space, but now with nanotech, there are physiological and biological processes that start to happen when you start to wake up. I mean, we know that our biology is epigenetic, meaning that our thoughts and exterior functions can activate genetic processes. Okay, can change our DNA, it changes our genes. Your thoughts change your genes. So when I understood it like that, I'm like, okay, well, what would the future look like? Well, it would be people who have the Ma'at gene active, who are awake, who are cooperating, living, learning, loving together in the midst of a realm of chaos that thus far people can't wrap their mind around. And if this system eats itself, I'm hoping that, you know, the snake eating its tail, as it gets so big and overloaded and bloated, that in some way it destroys itself is our best chance. My best hope is that it destroys itself with its own weight from the inside out.
Well, you told me about one of the guys who was helped develop this system, how he lives. Remember the guy in Montreal?
So I met a guy who was the inventor of the nanolipid carrier particle. And I was looking at renting his house. And he was a prepper. Yeah, just by coincidence. And so when he told me what he did, I was questioning him. So I spoke to him for like 2 hours until he realized, he started to ask himself, who the hell am I talking to, right? So, but by that time I had gotten everything out of him. He trains his sons to forage and live in the woods, to hunt, to defend themselves, totally bunker down his place. And he was willing to rent that place because he was bugging out to Europe where he was going to bunker down with his sons. So these are the guys that created it.
Yeah.
They know what's up.
That's interesting because Max Egan has talked a lot about, you know, learning, get back to your life skills, learn how to be in the forest and survive. That might be a potential type of future that we have for at least a period of time. And I've also talked about, make sure your physical is really good. I didn't fully realize until now how important that is. Like, you have to make sure, like, because the nanotech's attacking so much of your body, you've got to make sure your diet's good, you're detoxing that stuff out. Make sure your mental is good so you're prepared for these sort of things, right? Because for most people, if this sort of thing begins to happen, they won't be able to handle it.
They won't.
Especially if they got traumas, if they've got all kinds of bad programs in their head, they'll just do something stupid and end up killing themselves or something. So you got to get that. And then, of course, the spiritual, which is actually the biggest one, which usually, well, for me anyway, I think you do the physical, do the mental, and then you can really get to the spiritual and get really connected.
Yeah, somebody that says AI is not a threat.
Who is that?
Yeah,
I can't
AI is
remember
not a threat at all. Yeah. Super friendly.
Yeah, incredible times. Like, how do you feel about living during this time? It's just unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I was built for it. I think you were too. And I think a lot of us, we don't realize it, but we were specifically tailored and built for exactly this fight, and that's why we're here. And it takes a particular kind of cat to stand up to the system in this world. And I don't think it's an accident that we've had the life experiences we have, and our fists are pretty tough, you know what I mean? And that's because we have a big fight coming. So it's not an accident. That's my answer to that.
It's going to be interesting. Like, even in the last week, just realizing that everyone's got the nanotech in them. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And how it's already communicating, like, with their systems and stuff.
Which can also be affecting their thoughts. And you start hearing things in your head, you think it's you. It's not you. You're being mind controlled. AI is putting voices in your head. They already had the apparatus for voice to skull, lily waves. There's almost, I think it's between 12 and 18 hardcore scientific ways to put thoughts in your head. And that, in the military, is called cognitive warfare. It's about destroying your adversary's will to fight before the battle. So you don't even get off the couch to defend yourself, is the point. And that's well advanced. And if they want to rile you up and create riots of low IQ people, they can do that. And if they want to put treacherous thoughts in a person standing next to you that has never contemplated their own thought process and has those vulnerabilities, they can weaponize somebody who is right beside you. So you need to understand that. If they can't get to you, they'll come at you by people standing next to you, people you love. I know.
And I understand too, like, it's not obvious. And how they do it is so ingenious, and all
so
you
on
can do
that
is protect
note,
yourself.
I'll say the future proves past. Go to my website and look at my talks that were before 2010. Watch how all those things happened. Listen to my talks in 2018. Watch how all those things happened. Listen to my talks post-COVID, and those things are happening now. So...
And Max Egan's been saying for 15 years they're going to put you in the mainframe. And I, like, that didn't mean anything to me. I was like, what? What mainframe? And now you're basically saying they already have.
Metaverse, World SIM, Interbody Nano Network, W-band 802.15.6, communicating through 802.15.3.d terahertz communication through the first tier of your cell phone, over to your router, up to the cloud. Yeah, for AI to analyze and manipulate in the metaverse. Yep, already here.
Crazy. But all you can really do is, take care of yourself, take care of your family. Try to spread the information, although I don't have a lot of hope for that, really.
And that's what disappoints me. That's what really disappoints me. People are defeatist, and they say, what can I do? But they won't do anything. Well, you know what? The answer to that, do something. Anything at all. Anything, for God's sake. So it's not all on the shoulders of the few people that are willing to engage in the fight and are in the trenches.
Yeah, what more can I say?
So are you going to go back to drinking now that we've had this talk, Jeff?
Not at all. Because, well, when you mentioned that do anything, that's actually the key. Yeah. Even if you do one little thing, it changes everything. It could be something simple. It could even be just acts of kindness and compassion and love and spreading important. That sort of stuff as well.
Right. And random acts of kindness and love can affect the lives of other people in ways you don't even understand. So yeah, even if it's as little as being loving and compassionate to people that you see in need, yeah, that's part of it. That's why I say it's up to the individual. Everybody's not a fighter in the trenches. There's back support people, there's people that support through sending love and prayers, there's people that support through sharing videos, there's people that support themselves by getting healthy and not being a casualty we have to take care of. You know, it's anything that you feel divinely inspired to do. Just connect and listen and align with the divine and do some good instead of just doing nothing and participating in evil. Because as they say, all that is required for evil to succeed is good men and women to do nothing. So what are you going to do now? That's my question to you, the audience. It's been lots of questions for me and Jeff. Let's ask you, what are you going to do? Because me and Jeff are already at it.
I think we'll leave it there.